What's good, guys? Welcome to another video, and here we are with the last video of the Trading Gain course, Chapter 7, Psychology, and what would we be without having the proper psychology of trading. And if you have already been trading, you're a profitable day trader, you know how big psychology is. If you're not a profitable day trader, you also probably know how important psychology is. So let's get straight into it. But psychology is really a journey, man, when it comes to trading, because your psychology and the way you think about money, and how you trade and being disciplined to your setups and things like that, like all those things are going to continue to grow as you grow as a trader. So, psychology is just one of those things that you can never stop improving, never stop paying attention to, with all of the things in trading, really. But psychology is huge, man. It will, if not sharp, it will cause you to do things in the market where, you'll regret them afterwards. And the thing about, trading is there's three different things that can happen, right? You can, or really two, but most people say three, but I really think it's only two things that can happen. You either win or lose the trade, right? Even if you break even on the day, there's probably some type of fees or something like that, right? So in order for you to probably break even, you would have to make probably like $6 or something like that, depending on how much you're buying, right? Because there's fees and things like that throughout all your trades and whatnot. So really there's two things that happen. You either win on the day or you lose on the day, right? And you've got to be able to handle both of those things on a psychological level, whether you win or whether you lose, right? Because if you're not paying attention to your psychology and doing all the things necessary to make sure that you're staying sharp in that area, right, you can really waste and lose a lot of money in this game, right? And it's huge, man. It's very huge to pay attention to these things and take these things very seriously. Like, I know psychology is like the last chapter of the course, but it's probably one of the most important things for you to understand. Outside of obviously understanding the strategy, once you understand the strategy, the biggest part for you is going to be psychology. Psychology and risk management kind of tie together, but I wanted to separate those so that way we can have conversations about both separately. But really, risk management goes into psychology, right? Psychology goes into your risk management and vice versa. So let's get into it. Kind of my 3 tips that I have here to start off with. And as I said, like with these chapters, these things are going to grow. I'm going to add more videos to these chapters as I, come up with different things, think about different things here and there. It's just going to just be a vault of information talking about psychology or any other way that I might want to explain, how psychology works in the trading atmosphere, right? So the big thing, number one for me when it comes to psychology for day trading is you have to detach from the money, right? Trade the charts, not your rent money, right? Stop. You can't trade thinking, with this like eagerness of I've got to make my rent money with this, right? Or I've got to pay my car with this, right? You cannot have that type of psychology when it comes to trading. When you are trading, you have to trade what the charts are showing you, right? If you're hitting a key level and you're not cutting contracts, that is not properly trading. You are trading based off of money, right? You want to see your P&L go up, not trading based off of the charts. You have to trade off of what the price action is showing you, right? That's why I say here, when you're emotionally tied to every dollar, you make irrational decisions. Treat each trade as a statistical event, not a win or die moment, right? You have to trade the charts, right? You have to trade the strategy. You can't change anything based on the fact of emotions that you might have. Like I said, you may have a goal of I want to make $150 a day, right? But at the level that you're at, you're only up 100, right? You can't try to hold that trade longer to try to get that $50 because that is you trading off of emotions and the money, not trading off of the charts. And the money is going to follow when you trade based on the charts, right? The money is going to follow when you trade based off of what you're seeing on the charts, right? I don't even really look at my P&L like that, right? Like I stare at the charts. I do look at it, I glance over at it, but I mean, it's just because now I've been trading for 2.5, 3 years now where I'm comfortable enough to say, okay, I don't even really need to look at my P&L too much. I don't even really need to look at my P&L too much because I know that, like I said, discipline wise, when I get to this level, I'm cutting it out. I don't really care how much I'm up. I just know at this point now, because I've been trading for so long, that if I buy X amount of contracts and we get to this level, I know how much I should be making, right? And it just comes with experience. So that's why it's important for you to walk yourself through this entire process, build your system out the way it needs to be built out, so that way you can be consistent. But the big thing here that I'm trying to get you to understand is you have to detach from the money. You cannot focus on necessarily how much money you're making per trade, how much money you make per week. You have to trade the charts, right? Trade the charts, look at your P&L, then kind of back test and figure out things. What can you do better, right? Are you ready to up your risk, right? But just because, like we talked about in risk management, your risk has a lot to do with how much you're willing to lose, right? Not necessarily how much money you want to win. How much money are you comfortable losing? Because if you don't have that number correct, right? If you don't have that number correct, it will run you out of this game. It will chew you up and spit you out. I guarantee it, right? Because these markets don't care about what you got going on. They don't care about your goals. They don't care about none of those things, right? The market does not care that you want to make $150 a day, right? You're up $100. You're at a key level. You better take your money, right? The market does not care about any of that other stuff. So make sure you understand that. And that kind of goes into my second key thing here is to make sure you're understanding that expect to lose, right? Losing happens. It's a part of the game. You know what I'm saying? You've got to be prepared for that. That's why I say your risk management needs to be tied around the fact of, what am I comfortable losing? How much am I comfortable losing, right? What can, based on how much money I have on this account, how much do I want to lose per trade if I do take a loss, right? Because the losses are going to happen just like the wins are going to happen. But the losses are critical to be prepared for because those are the ones that are going to take you away from the game, right? Winning's never going to take you away from this game because if you're winning, obviously you're making money, right? But it's when you're taking losses, what kind of losses are you taking? And we talk about this in risk management, making sure that your losses are smaller than your wins, right? You want to make these losses as small as you possibly can, right? So have that number that you can say you're comfortable with, right? Like, I can say like, I'm comfortable losing $300 or I'm comfortable losing $400, whatever that number is for you, right? And every trader is completely different. It's based on what you have going on in your life. Excuse me. It's based on what you have going on in your life. So if you're comfortable losing $200, then great. Do your risk management based off of that. You know what I'm saying? And when you're expecting to lose, that's the kind of situation you expect to be in, right? So, and it may be way less than $200, but just give yourself that parameter where you're like, like I am comfortable losing X amount. So when you're practicing on that demo account, that's what you need to be practicing to see. Of course, you don't want to be like expecting to lose, you know what I'm saying? But you just have to be prepared for it because it is a part of this game. There is no strategy that you're going to get that's going to be 100% hit every single time. You're going to have situations where the market fakes you out or you make a mistake or whatever it might be. It's going to happen, right? So you have to be prepared to understand that, okay, this is the amount that I'm okay losing. So I have to go into every trade, no matter how much I may win, I have to buy a certain amount of contracts to make sure that I don't lose more than this amount, right? Period. So what I have here is even with a solid strategy, losing trades are inevitable. Don't take them personally. The key is to manage your risk per trade, 1 to 2%. So no single trade destroys your account, right? So I mean, I'm not like I said, I'm not big on like the 1 or 2% per trade, big thing or whatever. When you look at your account balance, and especially with trading stock options, what I do is I try not to use all of my buy power on my first trade, right? I use anywhere between 50% to 70% on my first trade of buy power. So, if I have $2,000, I may use like, $1,200 on that first trade, somewhere around there, depending on what kind of setup it is. If it's an A+ setup, I may go, $1,300, $1,500, a little more because I'm more confident in the setup, right? Versus like a percentage of my account or something like that. So that way, when I do that and I break it up into 2 trades with stock options, at least I know that I get 2 trades, right? Because with buy power, once I use my buy power, I don't get any more. So if I have $2,000, if I use $1,200 on my first trade, I only have $800 to use on my second trade. That limits me to 2 trades per day. That means I'm not over trading, right? And on that second trade, if I win that first trade, I can decide to say, you know what, I'm not even taking no more trades. I just, this is good, perfect, done, one and done, right? And then if I don't win that second trade, or if I do win the first trade, right? Or if I don't win the first trade and I decide to say, you know what, let me take an extra trade with this, this last little bit of money I have as buy power on another really good setup, then I'll do that, right? So like I said, the big thing here is to understand that losses are going to happen. You've got to prepare for them. You got to prepare your risk management for that. And you got to take losses and you got to just move on, man. The big thing for me, every time I take a trade, I'm always telling myself, like, I know that I can lose this trade. I'm okay with losing whatever I lose in this trade. No big deal, right? Never expecting to go into a trade, losing a trade, never expecting that to happen. But, I just have an understanding that can happen and it's not going to affect how I feel about trading and my mindset towards my strategy, right? You cannot let a loss make you say, oh man, the strategy doesn't work, right? No, that's not it. It's probably something that maybe you're doing, or maybe the market just, made a move today that just was a little off or whatever it might be. I don't know exactly. We can't predict the market, right? We have to find our edge in the market. We have to trade our edge in the market, and we have to stick to that, right? If you're going months on months on months and you're having issues with your strategy, then maybe there is something with your strategy. Maybe you do need to look into what kind of strategy you're trading, right? Or it could simply, and as it is most of the time, it could be something that you're doing. It could be your lack of taking the time to really understand the strategy, and you're so focused on the money that you can never get to that point of really understanding what it is that you're doing, right? So number 2, expect to lose and also expect to win. Right. So last but not least is to control impulses. Stick to your trading plan. Right. Stick to your trading plan. You have to be disciplined. You cannot trade off of emotions. You have to trade off of your system. You have to trade off of your trading plan. Right. This is a business. This is not a a situation when you're going to Vegas and you're going to you're going to play the lottery. You're going to play those type of games. This is not it. At least I would hope it's not, hope it's not that for you. And if it is that for you, that's okay. It's not like that's a problem. That's a good thing about trading. You can make it whatever you want to make it, right? But for someone like myself and any of my students I'm working with, we are creating businesses with this, right? We are creating long-term streams of income with this, right? So we have to make sure that every single day we're coming here and we're being consistent, right? At your 9 to 5 or whatever it is that you do to make income currently, if you have a 9 to 5, or even if you're self-employed and you have you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business, whatever. There is a business plan that you have. There is a system that you stick to every single day, right? 9 to 5ers, you get up in the morning at whatever time it is. You show up at work at 9 o'clock. You work from 9 to whatever time it is, 3, 4, 5, and you get off work. You stick to that plan. You come to work and you do what it is that you're supposed to do at work. There is a plan for you to do there. If you don't do your job there at work, there is a good chance that you could either get fired or there's somebody else that could step in and take your position, right? You're looking to scale and grow in that job, but you're not executing the game plan that you have at that job every day properly, right? It's the same thing with trading. It's the same thing with any business. If you're not getting up in the morning and executing your game plan as an entrepreneur that has, let's just say, for example, you have Airbnbs like we have, right? If you are not getting up in the morning and executing that game plan of what you're supposed to be doing to go, make sure the Airbnbs get clean, maintenance, guests are checking in. If you don't have a system in place and following that plan, it's going to get ugly, right? It can get very chaotic and it can result into you losing money, right? Or not making the money that you should make, right? And in trading, it's going to always probably 95% of the time result into you losing money, right? So you have to have a game plan. You have to have a trading plan. You cannot trade off of emotions, and you have to make sure that you avoid the big word FOMO, fear of missing out, right? You have to make sure that every day you are following that trading plan, following that game plan that you have to be consistent, right? A big thing for me, right, and that I've learned as I've grown through this trading process is, man, that you're going to realize that trading is way more than just the charts, right? It's what's your diet like? How are you feeling, right? Health wise, what's your family like, right? Like, how are they doing? How are they feeling? You know, because there's days where, you know, my son might be having a bad day at school or something like that, or maybe he had a bad week at school, right? And I'm having a hard time disciplining him and getting him to understand what he needs to do. It might not be a good idea for me to come to the charts, right? Because there's just different levels of emotions that I'm dealing with, and you just can't have them here when you're trading. You cannot, because you need to be able to think clearly. You need to have a clear mind. You need to be able to execute, right? And if you can't do that, you just have to be able to you have to be willing to simply just say, you know what, today is not a good day for my business. I need a mental day. No matter how great my business might do today, I need to take a mental day, because this, especially in trading, right? The thing about a 9 to 5, you can go to work at a 9 to 5 and be having a rough day at home and still go there and make money. With trading, there is a good chance if you are entering trades with not the right mind and not in a good place mentally, you can take a loss, right? That's the thing. There is losses that are accumulated here with trading. With 9 to 5, there is no losses, right? Unless you lose your job. That's a big loss, of course. But, you know, so yeah, you have to understand that, and you've got to treat this like a business. You cannot treat this, like I said, like just something you get up in the morning, I pull my phone out, start looking at the charts, and I say, oh, you know what, I like this setup on the video, let me just take this here, right? No, that's not how this works. You've got to do everything that goes into properly taking a good trade, right? Getting up in the morning, doing your pre-market analysis, or at nighttime, whenever it is you're doing it, having your breakfast, taking your, you know, you're doing your meditation, taking your moment to just breathe and just think clearly, taking your moment to think about your risk management, think about your trading plan, go over those things, and then come to the market, look for that one setup that we talk about all the time, execute that setup, be done, close the laptop. That's it. And you've got to do that over and over and over and over again. And the big thing about us humans, right, is we love change. We love to change something, right? We want to always make something, try to make ourselves feel like we need to upgrade and make something better. But a lot of times you don't. Just stick to what you've been doing and just be consistent, right? And be willing to compound and stack those days, you know what I'm saying? And then the results will show up for you, you know, like I said, as you continue to compound. But the big thing here as day traders, especially if you want to make this something that's like an income source for you, a consistent income source for you, whether it's replace your 9 to 5 or, like I said before, maybe it just gives you enough money to pay off your car notes. Maybe you have multiple cars and you're like, you know what, I'm with trading, I pay my cars off, right? I get up in the morning, I trade these 10, 20, 30 minutes, and the money I make here pays my cars. I go move on with the rest of my day, do the other things I do. Whatever it is, however you want trading to fit your life, you can absolutely do it, right? So, but the big thing is making sure, with number 3, is you make sure that you have a game plan and you stick to that game plan day in and day out. So, very simple as that. Those are my top 3 things that I would recommend any day trader starting out. Focus on these things when it comes to psychology. There's a lot more, and there will be a lot more videos that I add in here to really kind of help you build that strength that you need in psychology. You know, do a lot of research on just like, you know, mindset. Like I think in this chapter, I already have some like mindset mentor podcast videos or something like that in there. Those are good, man. I'm telling you, those are huge to you just understanding the psychology and understanding the power of your mind, right? You've got to understand that when it comes to trading stuff, just how powerful any type of entrepreneur, you know, journey that you may be on. Like you've got to understand how powerful your mind is. You've got to be saying the right things to yourself. And you've got to be treating your mind the right way, doing all the right things psychologically to make sure that your trading is exactly what you want it to be. So don't skip over this step. Don't try to like not pay attention to this, right? This is huge, right? I know it's the last video, but I'm telling you, it's probably one of the most important ones. So, but that's going to be it for the first psychology video here in the Training Gain course. That is chapter 7. That is the last chapter. Like I said, I'm going to have some other videos as well that are just going to be extensions of the Fair Value Gap 15-minute orb and other videos and things like that. But that is chapter 7. More videos that come here under the psychology section of the Training Gain course. It's your boy. Any questions y'all might have, you know, link them here on the video. This video may make it to YouTube. Comment your questions here. If you're in the Discord, always ask your comments in the chat sections, or, you know, you can just personally DM me, whichever one. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. But that's going to be it. Chapter 7, psychology. It's your boy. We out.